how does the son of a martial arts legend's first American buddy cop movie end up a box office flop? Paired with a big action star, he was thrown into a yakuza cop movie built on martial arts, revenge, and two mismatched partners. But Warner Brothers buried it before it had a chance to succeed. So how did this go from a financial disaster to a cult favorite after a terrible tragedy? Let's find out. This is the history of Showdown in Little Tokyo. It all started when Mark L. Lester became interested in the yakuza in Los Angeles and wanted to build an action film around it. But he didn't want it to feel like a normal police thriller. He wanted something bigger and louder. At the same time, his agent Martin E. Can helped shape the story, and the project started going through different versions. Writers Stephen Glantz and Calliope Brattlestreet came in, and the first draft they wrote was called Sergeant K. Then it became Yakuza with Steven Seagal attached to star in it. But somewhere in that process, the script started moving in a more serious direction than Lester wanted. He was thinking of something closer to Commando. So they brought in writer Jonathan Lemkin to complete the script, and the film finally became what we know as Showdown in Little Tokyo after taking inspiration from John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. Now the story would focus on Chris Kenner, an American raised in Japan, while his partner Johnny Murata was a Japanese-American cop who didn't care much for Japanese culture. The one thing they did share was martial arts, and that pulls them into a case and a crime boss from Kenner's past. With Lester and Khan producing, Warner Brothers came on board, and the production was expected to start in January 91 after a delay due to all the drafts and changes. With all that sorted, Dolph Lundgren ended up getting the role of Chris Kenner, while Brandon Lee came in as Johnny Murata. Lester said Brandon had already done a couple of movies, including Legacy of Rage and Laser Mission, and he wanted him next to Dolph as the smaller, quicker sidekick. With the two leads in place, Tia Carrera came in as Minako Okeya, while the legendary Karehiroyuki Tagawa came in as Yoshida. The cast also brought in many well-known martial artists like Ao Leong, James Liu, Simon Rhee, and Roger Ewan. Showdown in Little Tokyo was shot around Los Angeles and Southern California. The first day took place at the First Street Sushi Bar. Then the production moved through places like the Japanese-American Museum, the Mayan Club, Franklin Canyon Reservoir, and the Old Stroh's Brewery in Van Nuys. Local business owners in Little Tokyo wanted payment for their shops to appear on camera, so the production rebuilt most of the district in downtown Long Beach. One shop terraced cameras like the Japanese lettered neon sign from the film, enough to keep it after the film finished. The brewery also became one of the main locations. The production used it for the bathhouse and other interiors. Then came the practical side of it. For the bamboo cutting scene, Lundgren used an actual katana sword. Lundgren compared it to holding a loaded gun. He said it was heavy and powerful enough to cut through almost anything. Then came a real production problem. In February 91, 17 crew members went on strike, and that lasted for about a week. When some of the workers returned, they were told they didn't have their jobs anymore. So Little Tokyo Productions was accused of unfair labor practices. After a hearing, the company settled the case and paid back $5,000 in wages to 11 crew members and agreed not to question employees about union activity. Then Warner Brothers changed the movie. Mark L. Lester said his cut ran over 90 minutes, but the studio was unhappy with the early version, so they brought in editor Mark Elliott, known for his work on Out for Justice, to re-edit the film. What we lost was an introduction to Kenner and his former partner. It also removed a couple of dramatic scenes between Lundgren and Lee, and the scene after the underground boxing match where Kenner gets his ass chewed by his bosses. So the movie ended up with a runtime around 78 minutes. Showdown in Little Tokyo opened in the US in August 91, but Warner Brothers, in all their wisdom, only put it on 140 screens. And of course, the opening weekend made little money, with its cinema run ending in a total disaster, bringing in $2.2 million against an $8 million budget. Then came the moaning critics, and some of them weren't very nice. Vincent Canby at the New York Times called it spiritless, while the Deseret News called it dumb, offensive, and one of the lower points of the action genre. Not all of the critics were negative though. Kevin Thomas from the Los Angeles Times actually liked it, calling it a fast-moving martial arts action movie and praising Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee. After its terrible cinema run, the movie moved onto home video, with the VHS arriving in '92. The DVD followed a few years later, then Warner Archive released it on Blu-ray in 2015. There have been a few collector releases also, one German media book and a Spanish Blu-ray which arrived in 2024. Now for fans who want to add the movie to their collection, I've added a link in the description below, and there should also be a card popping up on screen to help you check it out.
Dolph Lundgren, Brandon Lee, Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Beyond those releases, the movie found the audience it missed in cinemas. After Brandon Lee's tragic death during making The Crow, his earlier films started taking off on home video, and Showdown in Little Tokyo got a massive push. The film ended up a buddy cop classic loved by fans for the great chemistry between the leads, the excellent humour, and great fight scenes. Later reviews called it highly enjoyable and singled out Brandon Lee as the one who shined. They also praised it as a well-made action film from its time, with both leads being excellent and Karahiroyuki Tagawa giving the movie the villain it needed. Other action sites kept coming back to a similar conclusion. Yeah, the film was messy, blunt, and not exactly sensitive, but it had the fights, the humour, and a great score. So the movie ended up being remembered in two ways. For Dolph, it became one of his best, but also one of his last cinema releases, and for Brandon, it became one of the films people kept coming back for more after his sad passing. Now personally, I love this film. I've watched this hundreds of times, and it's easily one of my favourite buddy cop movies, along with Tango and Cash. The fights are awesome, the chemistry between the two leads is bloody great, and the humour lands without turning the film into a rush hour type of movie. It's not got them comedy gags, it's a serious action film, but it has the comedy blended in a really good way, and that's probably why I like it so much. And then of course, you've got Brandon Lee. Watching it now is sad because you can see what he could have become. The film gave him room to show his charm, his timing, and his martial arts all at once. But that tragic accident on the set of The Crow took away such an amazing talent. We all know that he would have probably been Neo in The Matrix, and if he lived, we may also have got sequels to Rapid Fire and maybe even to Showdown in Little Tokyo. And we're not done yet. Next time we take a look at another classic movie. Until then, why don't you check out our previous video on The Perfect Weapon.
Problem here? Yeah, guess so.
Thanks for watching, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.